Hey traders, Nick here, recapping week ending 5-4. Boy, the week is ending with a bang for the Bulls for sure. Last Friday I said that this is a lose-lose situation for the Bulls. And it was, and if not for a huge move today on markets, which are up over 1%, thanks to Apple. It would have been, right now I think the weekly candles are green for the Nasdaq and the small caps, and slightly red for the S&P and Dow, but we don't know where we're going to close. There's still a few hours to go in the day. This is Friday. They have been selling the Friday close, but I don't see it coming here because there's no lingering headline. Guess what, folks? Okay, so I'm going to put it in the write-up in writing, but here's what I'm seeing. I'm still bullish, as you know. Overall, fundamentals will prevail. This is still a crisis of sentiment, not fundamentals. And there are a few headlines that scared us out of nowhere. Number one headline that started this whole thing in February was, I don't know why I'm looking at the TLT here, was the jobs report that was hotter than expected. So the assumption was, oh my gosh, the Fed's going to raise rates a lot faster than anticipated. They're going to do 4 this year, etc. And that started the correction on 2.9 or 2.2. We bottomed on 2.9. We said we saw the bottom. Ever since then, the quote experts in the media wanted to retest the lows, even though we retested the freaking lows and closed lower than the lowest close. But they still want to see that print that's lower than since then. But we haven't done that yet, and we've been thrown at headline after headline and since then. So here's my thought. I'm still bullish, biased overall in my accounts. And it is a tough trade because you're fighting headlines, and headlines are not logical. You do homework, and then the headline comes out, and guess what? All your homework is down the tube. So there is, to summarize it, to make it less insane, I'm going to try to put it in like 3 or 4 different sentences, simple sentences. Okay, so what worries markets, in my opinion, I'm going to list them in order of importance for me. Number 1, tariff wars. Okay, we have this big headline because that actually is tangible. It's a number you can compute. It will have an impact if we do have a massive tariff wars. Main people are China right now. So that headline, the relief rally from that headline will be massive in my opinion. That's why I put it my number 1, because it's I don't think we're worried about rates anymore. We're rallying with rates this whole week. We're falling with falling rates. So it's not a rate issue. Rates are under control. That's number 1. Number 2 are the rising rates. If indeed the rates are rising out of control, which there's no sign. The Fed statement this week, they told us that they're still on board with whatever, easing or moderate, blah, everything is on track. Okay, so these 2 headlines were addressed this week, and that's why we're seeing a rally today. The tariff delegation met with officials, and the statement out of the White House this afternoon was that they've had frank discussions, and they will now brief Trump, and Trump will decide. So next week we should have a headline from Trump saying, okay, this is how it is. The quiet period, or the comment period, is coming to an end too, so we should be getting a headline. I'm afraid to be short right now because of it. I would rather be long and risk some money on the upside than be short and get blown out. So that's my personal opinion. Then Trump said several times today that he is friends with Xi. He's got the Chinese president, and he has great respect for him. So, and that they will work it out. I think these were his words. Those are not fighting words. The fighting words happened, we fell on them, and they still linger. Effects. Okay, so those are the top 2. Then the earnings tops. That's a new thing that came out with Caterpillar. When Caterpillar reported an unbelievable quarter, beat, and raise, then the CFO opened his mouth and said that, oh, this is as good as it gets. So now the meme is that this is as good as it gets with earnings. This is not the top, but it's as top as far as earnings. That's the headline that's scaring people. I don't buy it. Geopolitical risk is also a headline. I don't buy that one at all because it's always geopolitically uncomfortable in the area where they're talking about Iran, Syria. I mean, come on. I lived in that area in Lebanon, and I know what it's all about. So that's what's on the table. So next week, if we don't have any headlines by Monday, we should continue to meander higher. Technically speaking, even though we're scary looking here, I think we could be up here in no time. Okay, so I don't want to be short. All right, I'm leaving longs overnight. I'm sharing a whole bunch of trades in the write-up, not in the video, and so only the subscribers will get to see that. And they are viable, in my opinion. And as far as headlines are concerned, just cross your fingers and hope that they'll be cooperative for the long people. So there are some levels that I've discussed recently, like the Qs, which represents the NASDAQ. So this yellow arc it's called a cup and handle. It's basically they are testing a neckline that has been failure. Okay, so if they breach it, another day like today is breaching it, this could be the next step. So today's move was very, very strong, 1.5% on the Qs, thanks to Apple. So Apple, the news you may have, I shared a chart earlier in the week that didn't have that candle. It did have that arrow, and guess what? So today, Buffett said, "Hey, I bought 75 million shares of Apple," which is almost doubling his position. So now he's the second biggest holder of Apple shares. Boom. So the market now wants to trade like a whale. Now they're buying it. Anyway, they're chasing, but that gave a lot of courage. I like another statement that Buffett said, because you know they own a whole bunch of businesses across a whole bunch of industries, right? He said the Buffett indicator, so to speak, meaning all of the businesses that he sees on a daily basis, are doing better than before. That is not a weakening economy. So what the heck are they shorting? Okay, that's why the fundamentals eventually will prevail. If his businesses, which are everywhere, are doing better, then the economy is doing better, then the stock market should do better. That's my thesis, part of it. Okay, so there's a discussion of Apple, BABA, the SPX itself. So BABA, here's a perfect example of that point. They reported, they fell down to 177 on the headline, and then they spiked back up to now being green 3-point-something%. People that shorted it, I don't know what they were selling. This is a company that promises and delivers. This is last year. Okay, technically it looked frisky. I said, let's go along. I got out too soon. And then they delivered their report, which was, and then they said after the report, they said, you know what? We've done some things, and it's going to be so much better going forward. I was like, I don't know if I should chase it up here. I wish I had, because they delivered and then some, and they proved it in that earnings report. So now they traded in this zone for about 10, 11 months, right? And they are, the floor has held, and of course, if it breaks, then they fall back to here, technically. But this earnings report, which they delivered today, said, we beat on all the metrics that we promised last time. And for 2019 fiscal year, we're going to grow 60%. So what are they shorting? I have no idea. Who would short it? Plus, technically speaking, as soon as they breached that level, this was the target. So the danger now technically is what will happen here. This is an accident scene several times. Resistance, you can call that resistance. You can call that resistance. So let's see what happens here. 205 plus is not bad. I have lottery ticket in here that I bought yesterday or this week ahead of the earnings. It's slightly green now, maybe flat green. I could close it if I'm nervous, but I'm leaving it on. And let's see what happens, okay? And this is just an example of how fundamentals and headlines are not lining up right now. So no need to panic, in my opinion. Okay, so to recap, next week we do have reports like on inflation, and we have a few Fed heads talking. So it's going to be rates. It's going to be on the plate. But I think we should get a headline or two about China, and that will override the rates, in my opinion. As long as the TNX, the rates are still within the 3 and not looking like they're going to spike to no end. So it is a possibility, and it is a concern if rates indeed spike and the technicals show that they could spike above this white line on a longer time frame, bigger time frame. So you see that, but it's not imminent, but it could happen. But so there are worries, but for now we are overly worried, and there's too much worry. That's my opinion. Anyway, Nick signing off. If you have any questions, let me know. You can email me at sellspreads@gmail.com.